Hi, I'm Rob, and we're going to look at Ebean ORM's Cascade Save. So we're going to look at the Cascade type mapping, so how the JPA Cascade type maps to Ebean, and then we're going to look at Cascade Save in terms of statement ordering, reference bean treatment, and the special case of one-to-many Cascade. So with the JPA Cascade type, the mapping is pretty straightforward. The only thing to really note is that Ebean doesn't have any merge concept, so merge just maps to save, just like persist. So otherwise that's pretty straightforward. So let's get into statement ordering for Cascade Save. So in terms of statement ordering, when we actually go to save a bean, this is actually not the first thing that happens. The first thing that happens is actually we traverse up many-to-one relationships and we save those first. And then we save the bean, and then we traverse down one-to-many relationships. And similarly for one-to-one imported and one-to-one exported, but effectively this is driven off the foreign keys and the fact that we need the foreign keys from the many-to-ones before we can save the bean. So we'll look at that and see how that works. So here we've got some code, and we're going to do a customer save. And if we look at customer, that has a couple of relationships that will cascade on. So the billing address, it's a many-to-one, and we'll cascade all. And we've got shipping address, which is also a many-to-one, cascade all. So what's going to happen is that we're going to cascade up and save these addresses, the billing address and the shipping address, first, before we actually save customer. And then here we've got a contacts, which is a one-to-many, which is also cascade. And after saving customer, we're going to come down and save the contacts. So if we, just before we crack in here, so we've got creating addresses. These are just new beans, new address, set line, city, country, creating the customer, setting the shipping and billing address, and then adding 3 contacts. So let's run that. So we have a look at what we've got. So the first thing that happens here is we insert into address. So this is our shipping address and billing address being inserted, IDs of 20 and 23, and then we insert customer, 17. So if we look at this insert statement, insert into customer, we go across here, we'll see billing address ID and shipping address ID, and these are effectively the foreign key columns. And if we scroll right across, we'll see the bind values, which is 22 and 23, and these were our shipping address ID and billing address ID. And then if we look at customer, we've inserted customer 17, and then we'll see inserts into the contacts. And if we go across on the contact, we'll see the last thing is the customer ID, which is our foreign key column, and our last bind value is 17. So we've inserted 17, here is the customer ID. So those foreign key columns are effectively controlling the ordering of the statements. So if we go back here, so again, we just traversed up to the many-to-one addresses. So we've saved shipping address, billing address, then we've saved the customer bean, and then traversed down to save our one-to-many contacts. And the thing to note here also is that this is a recursive relationship. So, or a recursive algorithm, I should say. So, if we saved the address, then that also would go through the same algorithm. Now, also, I should add here, this is a statement ordering for saves, which is inserts and updates. But if we were doing deletes, the exact opposite order would be used. So, before we deleted a bean, we would actually first traverse down, delete the one-to-manys, then delete the bean, then delete the many-to-one relationship beans. So next we'll have a look at reference beans. So here we've got billing address and shipping address, and these were new beans, but I'm going to show you that if we had existing addresses, we could create reference beans. So let's say our billing address is an existing address with an ID of 10, and that's a reference bean. So and similarly, we could create a new address and just set the ID value. So if we have a quick look in here, we've got address as a reference, and that's just Ebean server get reference, which is a traditional way of getting a reference bean. And this is an alternative approach, which is just to new up the bean and just set its ID. So Ebean detects that these are reference beans, they're beans with only their ID value set, and so it won't cascade beyond that. So if we run this, whoa, debug, never mind, let's fire on. Then let's have a look at our console. So our first insert this time is inserting into customer. So Ebean says, well, those addresses are reference beans, I won't cascade them. And if we look across, we'll see our billing address ID and shipping address ID of 10 and 11. So the point here is reference beans are beans with only their ID property set. Save doesn't cascade on reference beans, and the main point here is that often I see people doing find by ID when they're doing sort of a complex object to persist, and instead they could just use reference beans. And of course, find by ID is going to hit the database with an extra query, pull more data from the database, and a reference bean, we're not hitting the database at all. Now, the last thing we want to look at here is one-to-many, which has special cascade behavior, where Ebean will set the bidirectional back reference, if you like, or back relationship. So if we looked at customer here, and if we looked at customer, and we looked at contacts, this is a one-to-many mapped by customers. So this is a bidirectional relationship. So if we look at contact, it actually has this many-to-one customer. But if we look at our code, we're just going customer, get contacts, add. So these contacts don't have that customer back reference set, if you like. And with Ebean, that's fine. And when we go save, we'll see that Ebean populates that. So let's just run this with debug and have a look here. So if we go customer, contacts, and we look at the first contact here, so we've got Adams, and we haven't saved yet, so they don't have an ID, etc. So after we save, we'll see that the ID, version, etc. is populated, but also this customer back reference is populated with ID 19 Brian. And if we looked at the other contacts, they would be similarly set up. So what Ebean's done is it's gone cascaded save from customer to contacts, looked at the contact and said, your back reference hasn't been set, I'll set that for you. And that would be useful if we then go on and modify the customer and contacts and play around with it after the save. So that's this slide here, cascade saving from customer to contacts. So the customer is set on each contact if it has not already been set. And that's it. Thank you.